change the meaning, but simply it is a particular, as they say, lahja, particular dialect. And sometimes if you listen to Abdul Basit as he's reciting the Quran, he'll recite with some of the variations in the Quran. So, and just to give you an example so you will understand, so sometimes Jibreel is Jibra'il, that is one qira'ah, and another qira'ah is Jibreel, and another one is Jabaril, all meaning the same thing, all not changing the meaning, but simply a different dialect of saying Jibra'il or Jibreel or Jibra'il or Jibaril, all the same. So the Imam, he will come with that Quran that he written in the presence of Rasulullah, and Rasulullah verified that. We know that that has been verified. So he will come with that Quran, and according to some of the ulama al-Tahqiq, which has also the notes or the tafsir of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi wassalam. So he will come with these things. He will have the akhlaq of the Anbiya, and of course the akhlaq of Rasulullah, as we know, ala khulaqin azim, that he has the best of akhlaq, the best of manners. They said that he will also have, for example, the akhlaq of the Prophet Ayyub, sabrul Ayyub, patience, because one would need patience at that time. And having all of these things, as some of our ulama, they describe that why he will come with all of these relics, and he will have all of these different mannerisms of all of the Anbiya and all of the awliya of Allah, the Imma alayhim afsalam. He said because of the situation at that time, at the end of time. That is almost a culmination of all of the corruption that has come to pass. Every single prophet has come to pass. Every single time of the Imams or Imma alayhim afsalam, all combined in one era. And this is Akhir Zaman. So if you look at that, what was the corruption during the time of the Prophet? Even the Prophet Adam, brother killing brother. The time of the Prophet Ibrahim, the time of the Prophet Noah, the time of the Prophet Lut, the time of the Prophet Shu'aib, all of the prophets, you'll see that all of those things will exist at that time. So therefore, Imam Mahdi Ajal Faraj Sharif, that he will have all of those akhlaq of the Anbiya and of the awliya, those mannerisms to deal with each and every one of these ills within society. With that understood, again, as some of the riwayats it speak about, and some of them gives details of some of the prophets. For example, the story of Ayyub, very famous story. The patience of Ayyub. The method of the Prophet Musa, that he came and he and Harun, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them to go to the tyrant and قُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, speak to them in a very nice way. Do that invitation, because yes, Imam Zaman, when he comes, he's going to invite the entire world, the entire creation to the path of truth, the path of haqq. Unfortunately, some will not come, some will reject. But as I thought about this particular thing, the traits of the Anbiya, one of the prophets kind of just simply came to mind, and I began to reflect on this prophet, that what is the trait that Imam Zaman, Ajal Faraj Sharif, he will have from this prophet. And this is the prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam. That what values that he will have, what akhlaq will he have from Ibrahim. So this led me to search in the Quran and read the Quran and to see that what are those traits or what are those characteristics that stuck out about Ibrahim. And so if we summarize that trait and that characteristic that we find in the Prophet Ibrahim, that we will definitely find in Imam Zaman Ajal Faraj Sharif, we can summarize it in these terms, that he will be the hope for humanity. SubhanAllah, this is what Ibrahim was. In other words, Ibrahim, during his time, again, he represented what humanity is. Again, what humanity is. Well, of course, we have this humanistic philosophy today or humanism, but when we dissect the philosophy of humanism today and things like that, it boils down to individualism, basically. Humanism, where it places, as it states, human values at the core of one's belief and action, but it boils down to individual. Why? Because even the Western philosophers, they define this. So humanism, or the philosophy of humanism, goes into different aspects of education, of psychology, of science. And what is important is subjectivity. Oh, well, how this person thinks or how this person feels. Even now we see that, again, it is pushed a lot in society. That, oh, well, if a person feels like a potato today, you call him a potato. If a person feels like a French fry tomorrow, then you call him a French fry. This is humanism. Well, you observe only what that person thinks, that subject, and that becomes what the choice is. But that's not true humanism. If we look at it, that to care about humanity, because that's the whole guise, that to care about humanity, and humanity should be at the center of everything. They put God aside and humanity at the center of everything. Meaning that they put the creator of humanity aside, and I think that, oh, well, we can come up with the idea of how we should be or what is best for humanity. But when you look at all of these things, it's only what's best for the individual, or what's only best for a small group of individuals, not everyone. It's not that everyone will benefit from, you could say, perhaps certain financial endeavors or controlling certain commodities, controlling certain resources. Not all of humanity benefits from that. So Ibrahim, he represents that hope for humanity and what it truly means to be a human being, and what it truly means to care about humanity in its entirety. And where do we understand this from? We understand this from Surah An-Nahl, so chapter 16 of the Quran, verse 120, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he speaks about Ibrahim, inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanatan lillahi hanifa. Says that Ibrahim was an ummah in his entirety. In other words, Ibrahim by himself was an entire nation. And what does it mean that Ibrahim was an entire nation? According to the tafsir, they say that, that Ibrahim ummatan qanitan, they say that Ibrahim, among his people, among the area that he was at, he was the only person who believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way he did. That he was the only one who was, again, educating people for Tawheed. And I'll come back to that aspect of education. Hanifa, that he is inclined towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَمْ يُكُنْ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So he was in a society that everyone was going in one direction and he was going in another direction. Pretty much as one of the interesting hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. When one of his companions, he would go to the Byzantine Empire. He would go by himself for business and different reasons. So he was pretty much kind of, made scared. Some of the other companions, they were like, oh, no, you got to be careful. You're going over into the Byzantine Empire. You're by yourself. And if you stay over there, you die over there, then what's going to happen is that you're going to be raised with those people. You're going to be raised with a bunch of non-Muslims. You're not going to be raised around Muslims. So this individual came to Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam. He says, Ya bin Rasulullah. He says, this is what I'm hearing, that if I go to this place, among the Byzantines, I'm there for sometimes months, and just there, and I'm doing business, this and that. He says, if I die over there, will I be raised with non-Muslims? What will my hisab be? What will my account be? So Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam asks him, he says, let me ask you something. He says, when you go there, he says, do you tell people about Islam? Tell people about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Do you tell people about Rasulullah? Do you speak about us, the Ahlul Bayt, and the values that we have. And so this individual says, yes. He says, whenever I go, if I'm in a conversation with someone, he says, yes, I express to people that, yes, I am Muslim, the Quran is my book, and this is what I believe. The Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is my prophet, this is what I believe. My leaders and guides are, my Imma is Amir al-Mu'mineen, all the way up to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, so yes, I share with people my belief, my faith, and why I behave the way I behave. So Imam Sadiq says, now let me ask you that when you're here among the Ummah in the Muslims, he says, do you speak about these things? He says, no, not really. He says, the people I'm around is usually those who are your companions. We all know you. We all follow you. And again, in this realm that, yes, all of us are Muslim. So they know the Prophet. They know the Quran. He says, so I don't really have much talk about that while I'm here. So Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he says, yes, although you're by yourself there, he says, and if you die there, he says that if you die among them and you're the only one, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise you as a ummah by yourself. Simply because you're being that example of the Quran, of Rasulullah, of Ahlul Bayt alayhi wasallam. That you're the example for people to see. So you will be ummah by yourself. An entire ummah. On one hand, it shows us that what is our responsibility, that, again, whether we're born here, whether we migrate here, that our responsibility is to be an example of the Quran, to be example of Rasulullah, to be example of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasallam, so that when individuals, they see us, they say, oh, subhanAllah, this person, he's seems different. His akhlaq is the best of akhlaq. His actions are the best of actions. Why? Because this is what the Quran tells us. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is his example. This is the example of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasallam. So Ibrahim, he was that example of humanity in its entirety. And being that example and being the hope for humanity. And let me describe a bit of that hope and what that entails. So that, again, one will see that how Imam Zaman al-Jafar al-Yashif, he will adopt and he will have this characteristic of the Prophet Ibrahim. How we also should also be a semblance of that. And this is why the Ahlul Bayt, they say, Kunu zayna lana wa la takunu shayna lana. Be an ornament of dignity and respect for us, not a point of shame for us. So that hope, if we look at it and look at the story of Ibrahim, and particularly going to Surah Al-An'am from verse 74 to verse 79, it explains about one of the aspects of the life of the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, where first he encounters with, he has this dialogue with his uncle, although the Quran says his father, but based on our tafsir, we understand that it's actually his uncle, where he says that, look, you and your people, you're entirely misguided. So Ibrahim, he refuses to have hope in their way of life. In other words, Ibrahim is teaching us that, look, don't put our hope in anything that is false, anything that's misguiding us, anything that is taking us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So not in Azar, who is his uncle, he calls him his father, not in the people who are all misguided. They're going on a trajectory that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of humanity, is not pleased with. Nor should we put our hope, when we read those verses, in any other object which has been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not in the sun, not in the moon, not in the stars. So look, all of these things are, again, they're going to end. That our hope should only be in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is created. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Ibrahim, he says, I have turned my face towards the one who has created, who has originated the heavens and earth, the one who is خالق السماوات والأرض. That our focus in life is that. And so Ibrahim, alayhi salam, he is the example of that. Because one of the meanings, according to some of the mufassirin, they say that what does it mean that Ibrahim is ummatan qanitan? That ummah means that he is someone who is educating people. He is a teacher of people. This is also what it means that he is a ummah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, he says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. So there should be among you a ummah. Doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people. That if there's even one individual, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he pointed out with that companion, he says, oh, he's the only one going into the Byzantine Empire, but he's an example. He's teaching people as he's conversating with them, telling them about his deen, about the Quran, about Rasulullah, about the Ahlul Bayt. He is an ummah, and that's why Imam Sadiq says you will be raised as an ummah by yourself. If you die, you will be an entire ummah. So that ummah means that a person who is educating other individuals about the right path. فَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, who is calling people towards what is right, what is good. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and encouraging people to do good and forbidding them from doing wrong. And so when you are guiding people in the right way, to put their hope in the right place, not in this person, not in any materialistic aspect. Again, unfortunately, if we look at, again, humanism today, what do? We put our hope in, and I'm going to take this, and this is, again, really think about this, really reflect upon this. To see where humanism, or at least that idea or concept of humanism, it has taken us, and it's not really a philosophy or a way of life that is truly concerned about the welfare of humanity in its entirety. It's quite individualistic. So, whenever many of us, we get a job and we start our career, what is one of the first things we are taught in our career? Oh, you know what? You got to start preparing for your retirement. You got to put in the 401k. You know, you put this much. We're going to match this much. And then what happens? In our life and throughout our work life, what are we having hope in? That, oh, well, I hope, you know, that 401k, I've built up enough to retire. And that when I'm retired, then, mashallah, I should be okay. I should be taken care of. Let me ask you this question. What did people do before there was anything known as a 401k? Were people concerned that, oh, well, hey, when I stop working, am I going to be taken care of or not? Or what was there before a 401k? Why do we put all of our hope in that 401k when we were retired? What did people do before? Their hope was in their family, in their children, in their community. There was a human connection there. But now you take that other direction, remove the human aspect of it, and we put this aspect of, no, hey, you got to have a 401k. If you haven't built your 401k, I don't know what's going to happen to you when you retire. Because unfortunately, the guidance to some extent is that, well, again, you create this individualism in people. I rely on my 401k, perhaps can't rely on my children. And again, you look at the Western society, I perhaps can't rely on the children because, you know, they're going to grow up, they're going to have their own life, they're going to have their own kids. You know, even if I can't really take care of myself, they're going to put me in a nursing home. All of these things. So, but if I have a really nice 401k, then I don't have to worry about being in a nursing home. I don't have to worry about being a burden on others. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. But if we instill the correct values in that young generation, then they won't see that. SubhanAllah, there's what burden. For all that time that I was a baby, even when I finished school and went to college, and through college, who took care of me? Who made sure that I was okay, even if it was my parents? So now is it a burden for me to return that respect, return that favor, which even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that is impossible to repay. When one person came to Rasulullah, he says, yeah, my elderly mother, I carry her on my back and I feed her, this and that. He says, have I fulfilled the right of my mother? And the Prophet of Allah, he says, no. He says, you'll never be able to fulfill that. He says, yeah, you're carrying her at this old age with expectation and understanding that, okay, well, at one point she's going to pass away because she's very elderly. And this difficulty is going to be lifted from you. He said, but when she carried you with hope that you will live. She carried you with this understanding that, look, even if I don't eat, my baby has to eat. He said, so you'll never be able to fulfill that. But now the 401k has replaced that. So, put your hope in that. And not in your next generation. But we have to change that. We have to, again, be like Nabi Ibrahim. Be that hope for humanity. And one way to do that is, again, we educate our youth. And mashallah, alhamdulillah, there's an effort at the moment in our community to build and develop a school. Again, this is the purpose, to set things proper. I think perhaps many of you have maybe received a survey about the school. Please respond to that. Even if you don't have children, respond to that. Even you may have children in the future. Even if you don't have children, or my children are grown, then again, still respond. Still be someone who can help, because even if I help another child or to go through this, and we, again, educate them in the proper way, to truly instill that hope for humanity as the Prophet Ibrahim did. As Imam Zaman al-Jafari Sharif, he will be also that hope for humanity. Salawat. Because instilling these values in our next generation is very important. And this is something that Ibrahim, he understood. He was that hope for humanity and putting things in its proper place. So that's about with regards to hope. With regards to humanity, and this is where we see that where Ibrahim, that his focus wasn't on individualism, that again, he's this teacher. As we said, ummah also means teacher. To teach, to educate people, to bring people in the right directions. To have no hope in a system or in a method that is taking us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is something, again, we see in the akhlaq of Ibrahim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him the best of things, this understanding, this comprehension of the creator of the entire universe. But he doesn't say that, oh, well, I just want to keep this for myself. It should just be mine. Or if I share this with others, then it will be less for me. Okay? Again, because that's truly what individualism is. They say it's humanitarianism, and humanitarianism or humanist philosophy, that we care about humanity. But when we touch a resource, we often say, oh, well, if others know about this resource, or if I put it out, then what's happened? I'm going to have less use of it, less control of it. Ibrahim is completely opposite. How do we know this? In Surah Baqarah, verse 128, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says about Ibrahim and Ismail, because again, they have this nubuwwat, they have this comprehension of the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything that's in it. They make this dua. رَبَّنَا وَجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمِينَ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً لَكَ وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. Subhanallah. So they don't say that, oh, again, The best thing is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He opens up the treasures of the heavens and earth. In this world, the next world, physically, metaphysically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens this up. So Ibrahim, he says, no, we're not just going to keep this to ourselves or simply to my family, my son. So they prayed as they were rebuilding the Kaaba, oh Allah, give us these 5 things. One is to make us truly submitting to you. Secondly, of our offspring, make them submitting to you. And ummatan muslimatan lak. And when he's praying that, make them a ummah as well. Yes, on one hand, as an individual, they become an ummah, an entire nation. But also we know that physically they become a nation. And how do they become a nation? Again, interacting with those who may not have that message. Bringing them into that fold. Having children with them. Propagating. So it's not simply just for the family of Ibrahim, but for humanity in its entirety. So make us submitting to you, make us have that understanding of you, Ya Allah, and cause our offspring and those who they interact with also to be ummatan muslimatan laka, to submit to you, and teach us how to worship you. Wa arina manasikana. That's the third thing. The fourth thing, وَتُوبَ عَلَيْنَا. Oh Allah, that yes, we're going to make, perhaps people will make mistakes on this path. It's going to be a difficult path. So overlook our shortcomings. And then fifth, shed your mercy upon us. And that mercy, that rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, rahmat al-wasi'ah, that rahmah is not simply for the hereafter. That rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses this world and the next world. Life in itself is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our sustenance is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our wealth is a sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a rahmat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our family is a rahmat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of this is in the hadith. Another example of how the Prophet Ibrahim, he wants this, what he's been given, for others, not simply for himself. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 124, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he says that he's tested Ibrahim with some words. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama, that I have made you an imam for humanity. For the entirety of humanity. What does Ibrahim say? He said, oh, subhanAllah, I got this great blessing. It's mine and only mine. No one else can have this. And if I share the secret of this, that how to reach that station and maqam is going to take something away from me. This is only my resource. No. Ibrahim, immediately he says, قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي? What about my offspring? Will they also be able to achieve this station? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he answers in the positive. But also he says that among them who will reach, قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدِيَ الظَّالِمِينَ. He says, yes, if that person is oppressive, you won't reach that station. And although we are really short on time, there's no time to go through the explanation of this. But then, yes, we think of imamat. There's this imamat of those who are ma'asum, who are infallible, meaning that they maintain their innocence, their infallibility, their impeccability, their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from birth to death. But then as our ulama state, there's a maqam called the maqam al-imama. And what does that mean? That if you walk in those footsteps of Ahlul Bayt, then you will be, again, reach to a station of impeccability like them. That's just a shara, because I gave the story before that how Salman Farsi, when he was with Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, the Battle of Khandaq, when the Prophet of Allah, he called Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen told the messenger, no, you stay behind. But he looked to Salman, who was looking after Amir al-Mu'mineen because he was ill. He couldn't open his eyes. So he asked Salman, he says that, do you want to come with me to Rasulullah? Imam Ali said, yeah. Someone said yes. So Imam Ali told him, he says, look, you walk the way I walk. He says, you follow me exactly. He says, don't go even a small inch to the left or right, just as I do. So Salman Farsi, he says that, so he says, I did so. The Imam Ali, he stepped, he says, and when he picked up his foot, he says, I made sure that I put my foot exactly into his footprint, not one bit to the left or right. He says that after 3 steps, we were standing beside Rasulullah. And this is Imam Ali's in Medina, and Rasulullah is where? Out at the battlefront, Khandak. The messenger came on horse, but by 3 steps, Imam Ali, he was there beside Rasulullah, along with Salman Farsi, exactly walking on. And this is why I say it's Salman Farsi. He had a station, the 10th level of Iman. Not he was Imam, but he had that, you could say, as some have titled, Maqam al-Imama. It takes nothing away from the Prophet. It takes nothing away from them. Because, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing is infinite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is infinite. And, of course, by the time we reach to a part of that knowledge that the Prophets, or a part of that knowledge that the Imams have reached through, and that they've already soared far beyond that. But they're telling us, hey, come, walk in our footsteps. Walk in our footsteps. Gain this blessing. Gain this understanding. Gain this understanding. I'll give you one story, a very, very interesting story. And this is Ayatollah Bahjan. Many of us, we know Ayatollah Bahjan and his spiritual practice. Someone very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of his friends, he was a colleague with him, Ayatollah Fihri, comes to the house of Ayatollah Bahjan. And this is after many years. Ayatollah Fihri is 80 years old by that time. And the son of Ayatollah Bahjan, he mentions this. He says, Ayatollah Fihri came in. He says, they were in Najaf. They were good friends and things like that. So Ayatollah Fihri came. He said, he complained to my father. He says, look, he says, we were together in Najaf. He says, but I feel that you didn't, that our friendship, you didn't fulfill that right of the friendship as you should. He says, we were together. He says, you found the path of irfan, to getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, but I didn't find that path. I didn't find that teacher. He says, I wish you would have taken my hand at that time and taken me there. He says, but now, I'm 80 years old. He says, I would ask you for a thing. He says, but it's not going to do me any good. He says, my life is set, my habits and things are set. He says, but at that time, you should have took my hand and took me to your teacher so that I can follow that same path to irfan. He says, but right now that I am here at your house as your guest, he says, now you need to fulfill the right of the guest. In other words, that when Ayatollah Bahjan's son, he said that when Ayatollah Fihri told him that he didn't take his hand at that time, he said, Ayatollah Bahjan, he started crying. And then Ayatollah Fihri, he said, but now that I'm guest, he says, I'm not going to leave until you give me something. And he's not asking for water or food. He says, give me something. Give me something that the Ahl Bayt showed you. So Ayatollah Bahjan, he gave this, and we'll see that where Imam Zaman, he's the hope of humanity. So Ayatollah Bahjan, he told Ayatollah Fihri, he says, Imam Rida made a ziyarah. He said, Imam Rida gave me 10 things. He spoke to me and gave me 10 things in a mukashafa. He says, I'll tell you one of those things. He says, one of those things is, he says, Imam Rida, he says that if any of our followers, he says, if they're in any of the difficulties, he says, if they take refuge in us, he says, it's mahal. It's absolutely not possible that we will not come and we will not help them. We will not give them that refuge. Imam Rida, who's Dhamin al-Ahu, that he gave refuge to that deer, and that deer came back. But then the deer was let go. And this is why also Ayatollah Kashmiri, Arif Billah, Rahmatullah alayh, he stated, he says that in this time, he says that if anyone feels that shaitan is pulling him here or there, he says, do one thing. He says, step away from that place where you're at, that you're being tempted by shaitan. He says, go make a ziyarah, the ziyarah to Ali Yasin, a ziyarah for Imam Zaman. He says, and if you can't do that, at the very least, you say, Ya sahib al-asr al-zaman adirikni. That, oh, Imam Zaman, see my state. Help me. Do that tawassul. Imam Zaman is the hope for humanity. And though I don't have much time, about 2 minutes, he is the hope for humanity, and he wants to give you that maqam. He wants you to come and elevate yourself. And this is why it's in the Rawayat as well, that Imam Zaman, Ajfaraj Sharif, every Friday, yes, it's recommended that we make ziyarah to Imam Zaman on Fridays. They say every Friday he makes dua for the ummah, and especially those who find it. And that dua, it's a part of that dua is kind of similar to the dua of Imam Sajjad Ali Hafiz Sam. And that dua, he says that, oh, humanity or the believers, they have collected, they have gathered in different parts of the world on this day, on this blessed day of Friday. And he says that, oh Allah, he says, bless Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad doesn't simply mean the Ahlul Bayt. It means those who follow the Ahlul Bayt. And this is why Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he says that when we give the salawat, we say not Salli ala Muhammad wa Ahli Bayti Muhammad. We say Salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, so that the followers are included. So Imam Zaman, he makes his dua that, oh Allah, he says, bless Muhammad and the household or the people of Muhammad. Just as you've blessed Ibrahim and the people of Ibrahim, and hasten for them, again, hasten for us. Hasten for them relief, ease, help, strength, and confirmation. Imam Zaman is making dua for us. He is the hope for humanity. It's not that just he has that maqam or he has that he is hoping. Again, the same for us. Let us every day, we encourage some of the ulama that every day remember the Imam of our time. Not simply once a year. Not simply once a week. Again, this is the Imam of our time. This is the Imam of our time. Again, did the people who lived during the time of Imam Ali remember him one day a week? No, every day. Inshallah, it's time for Saad, so inshallah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hastens the reappearance of Muhammad Zaman and make us among His helpers and companions, so those who sacrifice our lives. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'i fi hadhihi sa'ati wa fi kulli sa'a waliyan wa hafidha wa qa'ida wa nasira wa dalila wa aina hatta tuskinahu ardaka tawa wa tumattu fiha tawila birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.
Thank you, Sheikh. We get ready for prayer, inshallah.
He does better. हाँ एक सेकंड वो अली को बुला रहा हूँ मैं अली को बुला रहा हूँ वो